I have that thing. I have that problem that it's unhealthy for a lot of people. I managed to measure it out pretty well, I think, but I keep scorecards.
Oh, yeah.
Not of people who owe me things, because that's the toxic part.
Right.
But things I owe people.
I do that.
Which is only self-toxic, which is okay.
Yeah. Oh, no, I do that very much so. Yeah. To the point where, I aim for it to be unbalanced in the other way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my goal, is to create such an imbalance that when I do have to ask favors of people, I don't feel like a troll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
My friend... She's one of those people, too. She also went through a major breakup, lost a lot of money because of it, was having to pay her whole rent. All this stuff happened at once. She had to get a second job, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So I took her out for drinks one day. Just me and her and our friends had a great time. That was months ago. Mm-hmm. And then this past week, I told her about how, I was just I don't have any money. And it's we were having a going away party for one of our coworkers. And I'm I can get, a drink. And so she, not only did she buy all my drinks that day without me knowing, sneakily paying for them, but she also slipped me $20. And she's just now we're even. I'm now we're not. We're not even. It's the opposite of even to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, now I'm with you.
You caught up, which means it's not fair from my eyes.
Welcome once again to Noah Snark, where two former religious types and current snarks take a look at religious media on its own terms.
I'm Hillary.
And I'm Josh, a.k.a. Shut Up, Grandpa.
Yeah, Gramps.
Fucking Grandpa.
I have no idea what you're referencing.
You will.
Oh.
But as always, before we talk about what we are doing today, let's talk about our hits and misses from a previous episode. From even this week. I don't know. Do you know you're going to fuck something up and want to preempt it?
I'd like to apologize for what may be... I'm not depressed right now.
Okay.
But I do feel a little, shall we say, snarky.
Okay.
Which is, I guess this is the podcast to be that way on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just keep finding myself being a bit of a Debbie Downer while smiling, which is confusing people.
Hey, I have the same thing, as you might know.
Life is the worst. Anyway, what?
As you may know, I went through a breakup recently.
I didn't know
and
that.
I had one of my friends specifically tell me that externally seemed totally fine.
Right.
But boy, is your humor dark.
Yeah.
So, I know what you mean. I am the same.
I'm going to try to tamp it down.
Did you have a...
Yes. Kind of.
Okay.
Do you remember our discussion when we were watching the Church Girl movie?
Yes.
I'm in love with the Church Girl?
Yes.
You referred to Stephen Baldwin as Stevie B the whole time, which makes sense. But then occasionally, I think once you called him Stevie B. Baldwin.
Yeah, because I'm not sure what his middle name is.
Yeah, and neither of us did. So I'm I'm curious. I wonder what his middle name is. His middle name is Andrew. Okay. So now he's Stevie A. Baldwin, which does not sound as good, so you should stick with Stevie B.
I always was, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just making
I was just curious.
I almost looked it up, too, when I heard it. So, I get that.
There you go.
There we go.
Now we know a little bit more about Stevie B.
Exactly. We're going to learn all the Baldwins, but they've all made movies.
Also, you are 100% right, which I never doubted. But Michael Madsen's name is on the cover of that DVD, despite the 15 seconds he is in the movie.
No doubt in my mind.
No doubt in mine either.
They pulled Michael Madsen.
But I had to make sure that we knew it for certain.
All
so
right,
that's all.
perfect.
That's all I have.
So let's talk about what we were doing today.
Okay. Today, Josh, we are doing anime.
Yeah, our first
one.
With
a very long title. That is it wrong to meet a girl in a dungeon? Damn. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? And I noticed, Josh, that you wrote that out for me. Was that from last time you told me, or because you knew I'd forget the title?
It's for something.
Okay. Well, good on you.
But yeah, so we were doing Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Mm-hmm. It is our first anime.
Right.
As we...
Well, oh yeah, I guess Superbook technically originally
was. The one we've watched is not anime.
Right.
But when we get to the original Superbook, that will be, I guess...
Right, which makes what you just said still accurate.
Right. But it is... I did not know that it was good for our show, but I heard about it, someone told me about it, and I was like, okay, let's watch it.
Like, they told you the premise, and you were like, that would fit.
That would fit.
Yeah, no, because when I read it, and then I saw the cover, I'm like, what the hell does this have to do with anything we cover?
Yeah.
And it does a little bit.
It does.
It does enough.
It covers it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking, because I was kind of thinking this other one that we were going to do, but I didn't really want to. So I was glad I got something else instead.
Cool.
We'll do it another time, maybe. But now let's describe it in one sentence, as always.
Okay.
How would you describe, in one sentence, is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon?
I'm going to let you...
Somehow, a sentence will probably be longer than that title.
I was going to say... I'm going to let you keep saying the title, because I'm not going to remember that ever, ever, ever.
All right.
I put, clueless god lackey uses the power of lust to fight monsters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's powered up by pure boners.
Yep.
My sentence is really long, but it is one sentence.
All right.
There's punctuation, but it's one sentence.
Hit me, Dickens.
One boy's grandpa gives... I just got it. It took me a second. I got it after, right when I started, but I was like, I'm going to push through it. No, I can't.
I like watching your face change as you hear what I just said.
Okay. One boy's grandpa gives him really stupid advice about how to find a nice wife, and so that boy ignores all the very attractive women who are obviously into him because he'd rather fight werewolves and demons and shit to maybe, hopefully, one day woo an entirely different girl.
Yes. Definitely.
That is one sentence.
That is one sentence. And accurate.
And entirely accurate. And I just want to be clear, because I'm going to come back to this. Our main character is an idiot.
Clueless.
And shut up, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Because his grandpa gave him really shitty advice.
Maybe he was already dealing with dementia.
Oh,
You can't always blame the grandparents, because I always assume that there's a little bit lost there.
That's fair. So let's start.
Okay.
Because we've got some things to go through. I don't know if it's going to be super long, but I'm going to try not to make it. I remember the first episode took me forever to write about.
Look, listeners. We are trying to get to a movie.
We are seeing a movie.
Yes. We gotta make this thing quickaroo.
Alright, so long ago, this is the first narration we get.
Mm-hmm.
Long ago, we the gods descended into the world of our children, the humans, in hopes of finding excitement. Now you can already see where this pertains to our show somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were in hopes of finding excitement and inspiration. And so, we decided that we would reside here, in the lower world, for the rest of eternity, stealing away our divine powers and live a modest life, surrounded by all the discomforts of modern inconvenience. The only thing we could offer in our earthly state was the blessing, the power to fight and defeat monsters. The children who receive this gift become familia, or a direct relation to the gods.
Mm-hmm.
So, the premise of the show is really simple. Some people join up with gods, who are not really super divine anymore, but still have some mild god powers.
Mm-hmm.
They become familia, which is basically like a mob family, I guess.
I hope so.
Many of them seem to operate that way.
Yeah.
And they go into dungeons and hunt monsters.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole premise.
So at first, it's the familia, yes, it had definitely overlap. It sounds like a Godfather type of situation, but it also kind of reminds me of how witches have familiars.
Oh,
Usually those are animals, but compared to gods, humans kind of are animals.
That's true, yeah.
So it's like they collect familiars.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I also wanted to say, we didn't get, because we only did 3 episodes, it seems like at least some of the familias do literally operate like a mob.
Or gangs.
Yeah, we're in charge, we're gonna do what we want, just fuck off and get out of the way.
Right.
Alright. So we now meet our main character, who is Bell Crannel. Crannel? I think it's Crannel.
I have no idea.
Bell.
Yeah.
Bell is our main character, and he is mid-dungeon, and he's mid-conflict, because he is running from a minotaur. Right away, you just hear him, what does he scream into frame?
Yes.
And he's trapped in a corner by it, and just in the nick of time, a beautiful warrior with a cool sword and a pretty face cuts the minotaur in half. And she kills it really easily, and she asks Bell if he's alright.
He is covered in blood. This was immediately gory, and I loved it.
We'll find out.
It was like a bell-shaped, Bell being the boy, a bell-shaped clean spot on the wall behind him.
Right.
Where it was just blood everywhere else.
He was head to toe, completely every square inch of him was covered in minotaur blood.
Yes.
And we're going to find out who the woman is shortly. But right now, let's talk about her battle armor. What'd you think? Boobs. It's
actually not the worst of the boobs in
I was
this
going to
show,
say, it's not bad for armor, especially.
Not at all.
It's mostly armor.
Yes.
She's not wearing pants, but she is wearing, battle shin guards.
Yes. Better armor than I've seen, but not the best it could be.
Not the best it could be, especially because it does the breastplate that has...
The boobs cut in.
The boobs cut in,
yeah.
Which I have heard this.
Yeah.
Is the opposite of what you do for a breastplate.
Yeah.
Doing that basically just means, stab here, please.
Right. My heart is around this area.
If you hit one of those boobs, and its armor is supposed to deflect, right?
Right.
It will slide a weapon off of the boob into your chest.
That makes all the sense.
It's the actual opposite of a point.
Right.
They still, like you said, did better than most anime, especially most fiction even.
Yes.
But...
And this armor does better than the rest of the episode. actually.
Yes, it's still anime, and we're gonna get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my standards are pretty low for armor at this point. I'm just like, okay, she's got armor on, that's something.
Right.
She's not Red Sonja.
It's not 100% skin shown. Yeah.
But we're in the city now, and Belle is running through the town square, and he's grossing all sorts of people out. We don't see him.
Right.
But obviously we saw him get covered in blood.
Right.
And so he's dripping blood all over the place, and people are just, like, looking in horror as he runs through the town really happy.
Yeah.
And he's looking for Miss Ina, who works with him in some capacity. Mm-hmm. And that's when we see him running through the town, again covered in Minotaur blood. He's unharmed, but literally just completely soaked, dripping it.
Yeah.
It's nasty. And when he gets to Ina, I guess he gets cleaned up. And he talks about the woman who saved him, Miss Ice Wallenstein. That's his rescuer. That's the woman in the armor. So let's get all the characters really clear.
So I guess she's German?
Could be.
East European.
Yeah, they seem to be going for more...
Wolfenstein.
Wallenstein. So we have Ina. She's kind of like a secretary.
But she's also kind of like an elf.
Yeah, she's got the pointed ears.
She has pointed ears, and there was something else about her features that was like, what, is she human?
She may not be. But she's supposed to be some sort of secretary. I don't think for him or that familia, but just like generally.
Right. She's like, she works in that world. Some sort of like, yeah.
And she's a resource for people. And then there's Wallenstein, who I'm going to call the Wall.
All right. Not Ice Baby?
Nah, just Wall. The Wall. And literally in my notes, I typed it in all caps every time. Wall. The Wall! The Wall. And then there's Belle, and then there's going to be Hestia. Those are the 4 names we need to remember. Mm-hmm. Everything else is whatever. Yeah. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So, Ina tells her that she's a warrior woman, and she is part of the Loki familia. And what else? She is a well-known warrior who is the best, or maybe second best, sword wielder in town. Yes. And she's even been rewarded the title Sword Princess of Orario, which is the town they're in.
Yeah.
So basically she's dope.
Right.
She's super good.
She's a high level.
Right. And Belle getting confronted by Minotaur in the first place earns him a little scolding because he went so deep in the dungeon in the first place, despite only being level 1, basically super useless.
Right.
And therefore not much good at this whole murdering Minotaurs thing.
Well, he took his level 1 all the way down to dungeon 5.
Right, that's stupid.
Oof.
So he apologizes, but he's forgiven very quickly because, he's just...
Adorable.
And she's like, I'm just worried about your own safety, less so about the anger part.
Right.
But she also tells him that, because Belle asks, he's like, okay, well, I know she's like a great swords person, but I want to know, is she single? What's her favorite food?
Yeah.
Like the personal stuff. And Ina points out, even though she does say that she's probably single because she hasn't heard of her being connected with anyone else, there's basically no shot this is ever going to happen.
Right.
If for no other reason, you two are in different familias, and therefore it would just be way too much trouble for you to even approach her.
Right.
And then, of course, you don't have to, you have to deal with the fact that you're a weakling.
Yes. Also, you're nowhere near her level.
Yeah, and she's one of the best around.
Right.
Because why would she be interested in somebody who can't kill a Minotaur?
Or, run screaming from one.
Yeah.
Probably more so.
Now he's all sad boy Belle, and he walks away dejected. But on the way out, Ina takes a little bit of pity on him and reminds him that women are often attracted to strong and dependable men. So if he works hard and gets stronger, maybe he can impress the Wall one day. So Belle is reassured, and he runs off in glee at this little bit of advice, and he embarrasses her, because as he runs out, he says, "Thank you, I love you, bye!"
I loved that so much.
Yeah, it's really cute.
If he was embarrassed, it would remind me of like when you accidentally call your teacher mom.
Yeah.
It's like that, but at the same time, it didn't seem to embarrass him at all. He's just like, no, I'm just being honest.
Yeah, no,
You're basically my mom, bye!
He's like crazy earnest.
Right.
Which is always a character I like. That's why I really like Poe Dameron.
Yes, 100%.
He's too earnest. It's upsettingly earnest.
He was my favorite character, really.
Yeah, he's the best.
But
it's just, we've talked about this. He sees his best friend, and he picks him up and throws him into the air like a baby. He's like, "You're my best friend! Oh my fucking god!"
God, I love people like that. And I'm a little bit, with my closest friends, I'm very much like that.
Yeah.
Like, fuck everyone, I don't care who's looking, I need you to know I love you more than everything.
I'm gonna smother you to death because I love you so much.
Cut you open and wear you like a tauntaun.
Alright, but Bell runs home, and this is when he hears his grandfather's voice from his past, telling him that he's a promising young adventurer, but he needs to find love in a dungeon. Mm-hmm. Because once he rescues a young maiden from a big, terrifying beast, he'll be in her good graces, and that's what adventuring is all about.
How archaic are you, Grandpa?
Grandpa gave the young Belle some terrible advice, but he does believe it nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to do whatever it takes to get the wall to love him. So now he's home, and we meet his patron, Hestia, the goddess of who cares. And I want you to...
She's like the goddess... She was the goddess of, I think, like homebody... Not homebodiness, but like, the hearth... It was like the hearth.
Yeah.
And just like domesticity, I guess. Which makes sense because she wants to take care of him.
Right. Well, why don't you tell me about her real quick?
I don't know anything about her except for her boobs are insanity.
They are. They are anime boobs.
Right.
They seem to have their own...
Yeah, they have their own, I guess, musculature and skeleton.
And physics.
Yeah, because they move independently of her. Mm-hmm. Completely against the laws of physics.
I think they move independently of each other.
Also that. Yeah. There's a better way to describe Hestia.
Well, I described her primarily as just overbearingly cute.
Yes.
Like, that's sort of the personality we're going for. Is she's just super adorable.
Right.
With giant tits. But super, super cute. So everything... She talks in a little girl voice. Yes. And she always does, like, expressions that are cute. And she even eats in a cute way.
One of, like, the anime ideals. Like, you know, what I can only assume Japanese men is considered the perfect woman. Yeah. Which is just very attentive and very busty.
Yeah.
And small and precious.
She's super kawaii.
Right.
But, that's the easiest way to say it. Everything she does is supposed to be super cute.
Yeah, and she's just hanging out at home, but she's in basically lingerie all the time. Of some sort.
Why not, right? This is my house.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, just like, whatever.
She does actually have a job, though, because she mentions early on that she has taken a job at some sort of, like, food stand, because this is when she presents Belle with, food, and it's potato croquettes that she got from work. But, they have a conversation where she's scared because she heard about the thing in the dungeon, so she's worried for him, but he assures her that as the only other member of the Familia, he can't afford to die and abandon his precious goddess. Mm-hmm. So Belle's just a good guy. So they get potato croquettes, and they have some... I don't know, dinner, but she says that she wants to turn dinner into a wild party and warns him that he's not going to get any sleep tonight. It's supposed to be sexy.
Very, very obvious.
Oh, she's head over.
Head over heels. Blatant about it. Aside from holding his face and saying, I am madly in love with you, every single thing she does is just to make this point obvious. Yes. And he picks up on not one single iota of it.
Yeah. In the 3 episodes we've seen, he doesn't pick up on any of it from anybody, because this is not the only person.
And this includes her boobs being pushed into his face constantly, and her getting mad about the idea of any other women, and telling him constantly that he can't abandon her, and that he loves, and that she needs him around, and that she doesn't really care if anybody else is in her familia.
I was about to say, because they're talking about it, and she says, she sort of complains that no one else will join her familia.
Yeah.
But then she also kind of likes it being just the two of them in her, like, sultry voice.
Yeah.
She's like, I kind of like it just being the two of us.
With her sparkle eyes. I do kind of feel bad for her.
Yeah, because she's not popular. No one likes her.
Well, yeah, but also she also seems really genuine and earnest, just a little bit dumb.
Yeah. But she wishes that she could use her god powers. But there's that stupid rule that she can't do that when she's down in this lower plane. But Belle assures her that they are going to get through this slightly rough patch together. There's a nice sparkly moment between them, and she's thankful for meeting such a human as Belle. He's so nice. He's so good.
Yeah.
And then, as Philly was explaining, in the next scene, she's going over his stats, because it's like an RPG, so when you go in the dungeon, you level up.
Right.
And he tells her about the wall, and how much, like, he likes her, and she saved him.
Yeah.
And Hestia gets very jealous very quickly.
Yes.
And so she doesn't, but of course, Belle isn't super bright. He's earnest, but he's not super bright.
Correct.
So he doesn't get why she's mad?
Or, also not super bright, because maybe he should have been taking that advice from his grandfather as kind of metaphorical. Like, look, you just need to build on yourself, you need to get strong, you need to win over somebody.
Yeah.
Like, you should meet somebody in a dungeon, not literally. But he's like, dungeon, got it. I'll sit in a dungeon.
Because he wouldn't be in the dungeon if he hadn't met Hestia.
Right.
So, like...
Also that, yeah.
No, so you're right.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
She's not literally in the dungeon, but he's only there because of her. Therefore, he met her in a dungeon.
Right.
Like,
that's true.
technically.
Technically, you're absolutely right. So he's just a big old dummy.
He's just a big old dummy.
Teeny tiny dummy, I guess. Also, have you mentioned that his leveling up is something that happens on his back? That
she like pulls his...
I can't figure it out. Like, he just lies there shirtless, she sits on him, and I guess, I can't figure out how it works. I don't know if it's described elsewhere, but basically she, like, tattoos his...
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing.
She magically tattoos all of his stats onto his back and then tells him what they say.
Yeah, she can print it out, and she does here.
Yeah.
But before she does that, they're talking about the wall still. And she says, it doesn't matter because a perfect girl has been by her side for quite some time now. But again, he doesn't understand.
Yeah, I wonder what she's talking about.
And then she reminds him about the different familia that he and the wall are in, so they couldn't get married anyway. So he may as well start looking a little bit closer to home, if you know what she means. And she says that, if you know what I mean.
Right.
He doesn't.
No.
And that's when she prints out his little stat card. And there's a bit of faded print at the bottom.
Yeah.
And he sort of asks about it. He's like, what is this little thing I can't see? But she says that she might have just made a mistake printing it out.
Yeah.
And
her magic smudged.
Yeah, her magic smudged a little bit. So at first he was going to be really excited because he thought he had a skill and it would have been his first one. But she says, nah, dog, that's just something that happened. And then, of course, he leaves the room and she reveals that she was lying. He does have a skill. It's called fast growth. And it lasts as long as he maintains his feelings, and it increases depending on their strength. Mm-hmm. And so basically, I'm going to explain it now so you don't have to later.
He's going to be Prince of Boners.
He got really strong feelings for the wall.
Yeah.
That gave him a skill that lets him grow stronger much quicker. Mm-hmm. The stronger his feelings, the better the growth. So he's going to level up really quickly, presumably, in the future, as long as he maintains that feeling. But Hesty doesn't want him to know that, because if he knows that the strong feelings make him stronger, he's going to be more motivated to lean into them.
Right.
And of course, she's trying to woo him.
Yeah. Do you think the Princess of Swords will ever go for Boner Prince?
What do you mean? Oh, my guess, no.
I don't think so either.
Or, you know what? My guess. This is a series of books, I believe, that they've made into other stuff.
Okay.
My guess is, yes, she will start to go for it, but then he'll realize that one of the other women is better for him.
I see that,
and so he will reject her.
Yeah, and
but
I can also see, even if he transfers his like, even if he transfers like his affections to somebody else, I feel like it would still, this is still a power. It doesn't have to be the same person, maybe.
That's true.
So if he starts developing feelings for somebody else,
he can still use fast growth.
Right. But he might be scared to do that once he finds out that he might think that his power only comes from loving ice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Ice. Oh, Ice. Her name. Right. Her first name.
The Wall.
The Wall. I took me a second.
Sorry. That's what I was calling her because I couldn't understand her last name all the time.
Yeah, that's fine. I just had a stupid moment. Ice. All right. Her name.
Yeah. So that's all. That's the theories that I was creating in my head.
If it was me, I would definitely write a thing where he falls out of love with her and then he struggles with the fact that he can't fast grow anymore.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know that much about this thing. So.
I don't either, but I'm interested.
Mm-hmm. But the next scene happens and I was just sort of dealing like, wow, it's only been 12 minutes and that was a lot that happened already. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it'll go smoother because I did not want to write 3 pages on every episode.
Right.
And the good news is, it does.
Yes.
So, the next morning, they've fallen asleep on the couch, and Hestia sleepily crawls over him and basically assaults him with her body.
Yes.
Accidentally, it seems.
I'm not even sure she was a part of it. It might have just been her boobs acting alone.
But, of course, he's mortified when he wakes up and sees the approaching titties in his face.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh no! Ah! And he wiggles out from under her, and then he compliments himself for his smooth escape.
Yeah.
But he's approached by one of the shopkeepers in town, and told that he's dropped a small part of a crystal. But he thought that he didn't have any left. It's not important. And then while they're talking, his stomach growls. So she gives him a little bit of food to take to the dungeon. And while he does try to refuse it, she insists he take it, and she can repay him by promising to have dinner at her place of business tonight.
Girls are way accommodating in this universe.
Yeah. But I also thought it was a really clever ploy to get some business. She's like she's like a waitress or a barmaid. Bit that,
but also she is into him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She's 100% into him. But it was just like, well, here's a small meal, a snack. Yeah. You come back and spend lots on dinner.
A snack from a snack.
Oh, yeah. But she says it'll make her so happy.
Again, adorableness.
But in the dungeon, he is surrounded by some werewolf-looking creatures, and he is inspired by his conception of the wall, asking him to be brave in his head.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like, be brave for me, and then you might deserve me. And so he goes on the attack. Don't get to actually see any cool fights right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we cut straight to him and Hestia with his new stat sheet that night. And he's actually gaining stats now. Even his strength and his skill, and that's never even happened before.
Right.
And Hestia gets really bitter about it, but he doesn't know why, because she's mad that she can't contain her anger at the fact that he's only stronger now because of another woman.
Right.
She won't tell him about it, so he's just like, what the fuck did I do?
This part of the storyline, it gets really exhausting really quick.
Yeah, but she storms out of the room, and he doesn't understand what he did, and so she goes to sulk alone, and she complains internally about what he sees in the wall, despite having her right here in front of him, that stupid, stupid boy.
Yeah.
So Belle goes to have the dinner he promised at the tavern, and the cute shopkeep is introduced as Seer. With a Y. Seer.
Oh, you saw the spelling of it?
Yeah.
I didn't.
S-Y-R.
Okay.
Seer. And he's bombarded with food, and he ends up overspending. He's like literally doing the math in his head, like every poor person does.
Right.
Like, oh shit, oh, that's an $8 drink. Oh.
Yeah, but you're just calculating nonstop whether you like it or not.
Uh-huh.
I feel like even if I accidentally get rich, I'm still going to be doing that.
Absolutely.
But also, he's not overspending. They keep giving him food and charging him for it.
Yeah, he does. He needs to refuse.
Yeah, they keep presenting him with food. Like, here you go. Here's the special. He's like, I can't afford this, but he eats it anyway.
Mm-hmm. But that whole saying about there being no such thing as a free lunch is proving devastatingly true for him.
Absolutely, yes.
Because she was just, again, like I said, she's like, here, take a small snack. Here's a small lunch.
Yeah.
And then cost him like half of his money.
She's basically a drug dealer. She's like,
bit.
First one's free.
First taste is free. But much to his chagrin and embarrassment, the Loki Familia walks into the tavern. And they're apparently very popular customers around here. And of course, they're all super cool. There's like a half-cat man with white hair and a scar over his face.
I liked his look.
Yeah. Oh, he was super cool. There's a
it.
little kid, but like clearly strong.
Right.
Like just someone who's a dwarf or something.
It's basically like the Cullens walking into the
yeah, it is.
Into the cafeteria.
They even have the hair like Alice.
Right. They're all just like stoic and strong and tall.
And of course the wall is here with them. And Belle can't help but watch them in admiration, but from afar. And he's told by Seer that the Loki Familiar comes in here all the time. And so, maybe Belle will too. Because he now knows where to find him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
As the night goes on, the Catman, the fancy-looking one, who was the coolest-looking one, starts retelling the story of how the wall went down to the 5th floor the other day and saved some little pansy from a minotaur.
Yeah,
and
I wonder who he's talking about.
Yeah, and he talks about how the little wuss got absolutely covered in blood. And then he says, and then he ran away and he started screaming.
Is he the only dude in the Familia?
No, because there was a little kid. He was a boy, I think.
Oh, was it a boy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I was just curious.
Yeah, it seems to be a largely woman-led Familia, because Loki's a woman.
Right. We found out later.
Yeah. She was there in this group, but we didn't know it was Loki yet.
Oh.
She was just really drunk. And being a drunk.
So it was Wolfman or Catman or whatever he was.
Yeah. But the rest, he's doing that classic thing where one of your friends gets too drunk and starts being an asshole.
Yeah.
Because even the wall's like, will you stop?
Yeah, like half the table was like, you're just drunk.
Yeah.
Shut up.
But then he continues going because they all ask him, shut up. But he says, and they point out that the Minotaur wouldn't have even been that far, like, up, down, on that lower level of the dungeon if they hadn't screwed up and let it escape in the first place, because they were apparently at the higher levels doing dungeon stuff.
Right.
And it escaped, and that's why Belle ran into it. He shouldn't have been that far, if that's true, but it shouldn't have been that far either.
Okay, so I have a question that just occurred to me. Are the levels going down into the dungeon or going up into a tower? Because it looks like a big tall tower.
It's probably a big tall tower.
But I actually, in my head, was just thinking that, like, he's on level 1 up at the surface, and then you go deeper and deeper down. That was what I created in my head. It's probably just because of the title. Anyway.
Yeah. It's clearly modeled after, like, a traditional art. It's clearly modeled after a traditional RPG, and those are ethers.
Gotcha.
Like, either you're climbing a tower, and the higher you go, the stronger everything gets, or you're going down, and the lower you go. Right. So it looks like a tower, it's probably a tower.
Yeah,
so he was on level 1 going up and they were higher up, and the Minotaur got lower than it's supposed to be.
Gotcha.
But so again, Bell was higher than he needed to be.
Yeah.
The Minotaur was lower than it should have been.
I just love
So it was
the idea
just
of
bad coincidence.
all of these characters Scooby-Dooing their way around this building. It's like going through doors and going up and down.
And, so they were just saying, like, we screwed up. It shouldn't have been there in the first place. And the kid just wasn't prepared for it, whoever he was. So most of the Familia, not knowing who this is, it's just like, it's not really his fault.
Yeah, which I think is really nice of them, actually.
Right.
Instead of just enjoying laughing at a stranger.
Right. But this incorrigible rogue, the Catman, insists that it's Belle's fault for getting over his head and trying to be a hero in the first place. And this gets him all worked up into a lather, and in a bit of nonsensical and really on-the-nose storytelling, he asks the wall, who's the bigger, stronger, more handsome hero? Me or that scrawny tomato boy? Calls him Tomato Boy because he was covered in blood.
Right.
And like he says, what'd you even do if that scrawny tomato nerd walked up to you and told her he had the hots for you? You're way too good for a loser like that.
Wonder if he has a crush on Ice. It would seem as
absolutely.
obvious as, yeah.
But this all happens as Belle is listening, and he grows increasingly more upset because he's being insulted by a man who, first off, is stronger than him. It could probably kill him easily.
Also, this is what he's the most insecure about.
Right. He's also insecure about being weak, and it's happening to the girl he's got the hots for.
Right. Oh god, this is so high school. It was literally like a high school cafeteria.
Mm-hmm. But so he eventually can't take it anymore, and he runs away without paying for his meal. And the wall follows him outside because there was a ruckus, and she vaguely recognizes him. Like from the back, you can see, she's like, is that the tomato boy?
I mean, that was the only part of him clean when she saw him, so.
Right.
I do recognize the back of that
I've
head.
seen that ass. I never forget an ass. And so Belle wipes away his tears as he runs into the dungeon itself. Because now he's worked into his own lather. He's like, I'm gonna go get strong. And he runs into the dungeon and he kills as many monsters as he can while thinking to himself that he has to overcome everything that confronts him if he ever expects to be able to stand next to the wall. And so now we at least get to see some action. And Belle is wanting on pure willpower.
Mm-hmm.
Or the little jellies or slime-looking boys.
Who?
The monsters he kills in this scene.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, they were generic-ass monsters. But yeah, he just basically was like, I'm just gonna go kill some stuff because I'm gonna be strong!
Wish I could do that to relieve stress.
Right? Video games are for that. I've done it before.
I
I
need
was
the
just like
physicality.
having an annoying day. Like, I'm just gonna go kill 1,000 Chinese men in Dynasty Warriors.
I just want to. I mean, I need to see their breath leave the body. I think that's the only way I'd be satisfied.
And so the next morning, Hestia is waiting outside of their home, and she's lamenting that she hasn't seen Belle all night. Like, she might have really screwed up because he's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
But he arrives home, now very bloodied from his dungeon crawl. He tells her he wants to be strong, and he's bleeding from his face, and he collapses into Hestia's arms. And the end credits run.
They're abrupt.
They're really abrupt. It happens abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
But the final scene, well, sorry. Before the credits run, she's like, okay, we can do that. We're going to make you strong. And It's a little touching moment where he's like, my drive is determined. In the first episode, that's what you do. You establish the point.
And this is where we get the little glint in her eye that she might care for him enough to put her own feelings aside.
Yeah. She wants him to reach his dreams. So
Yeah.
maybe they're perfect for each other.
Maybe.
And then, of course, we get a little extra scene at the end after the credits where she is putting him into bed. And she says, you can sleep on the bed instead of the couch for once because you're so fucked up. And then, what does she say? Oh, yeah, to make sure you're okay, maybe I should sleep with you. But he's really out of it, so he's just like, yeah, okay, that sounds great.
Whatever you need, good night.
And then she's like, oh, no, how could you say that? I was just trying to mess with you. Ah! I didn't like it, but it's cute.
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
It's cute and dumb, you're right.
All right, so we're on to episode 2, and they're going to go faster now.
Yep.
Because we established our premise.
Right. The world has been created. We understand it. Let's move on.
So it begins with Hestia realizing that Belle is leveling up way too quickly, and of course his fast growth skill is the culprit. And she's curious if she should tell him about it, but thinks that he'll leave to another Familia if he knows about it, because he's going to be too strong for her.
Yeah.
Because again, he's her only Familia member.
Right.
So she keeps it to herself, but does form a bit of a plot to give him a little push. And we'll find out what that is in the course of this episode. But she does tell him that he's, growing very quickly, and makes him promise not to ever leave her, because she's all sad and shit if he would.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll be sad. And of course he promises that he'll never leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then she tells him, great, because I'm leaving for the next few days. And so he heads back to the tavern to pay off his dinner from before, because he ran away. And Seer, the barmaid, tries to give him another lunch, which he reluctantly accepts because I think he knows what happened last time.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I don't need this. And the bar owner herself gives him some adventuring advice, and he heads off to the dungeon as all the tavern people watch him, including the other waitresses, the owner, the cook, I think. And they're all watching him very clearly because Seer has a crush on him.
Right.
They're just like, oh, he is kind of cute.
He also has that type of personality that just everybody wants to take care of him.
Yeah, it's true.
Because he's so clearly in over his head.
Yeah, kind of naive.
In earnest.
Yeah. And he comments that the send-off he received makes it seem like he was leaving home. It's like, oh, I found a little place.
Yeah.
Now we catch up with Hestia, find out what she's up to. And she's gone to a gathering with lots of fancy people and her fellow deities, none of whom she appears to get along with.
No.
It seems like everyone hates Hestia.
Yeah.
Especially Loki.
Which makes me like her more and more, actually, slowly as we go on. Like, it's not her fault she's drawn that way.
Exactly.
She's Jessica Rabbit, basically.
Because Loki comes in and immediately, goes for it. Like, Hestia was already having a conversation with one who they didn't get along with. Like, even the both of them saw each other, it was like, oh, it's you. But they were, fine.
Yeah.
Then Loki comes in and is like, you fucking suck! And she tries to mock Hestia for being really poor. But, of course, she gets it turned around on her because Loki is a very flat-chested, thin woman.
Yes.
Very, very small of frame.
Gorgeous. But the worst thing you tell a woman of that stature is that she has small boobs or no boobs.
Right.
Again, apparently this is high school.
Right. So she was getting at Hestia. She's like, you're so broke, you don't even have a proper dress. And so Hestia's like, oh yeah? Oh yeah? Well, my boobs are fucking back-breakingly massive. And you have no titties. Yeah, so this is a known sore spot for Loki, actually. When she starts to say it, there's background people saying, no, don't do it! Don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. But she does, because she can be bitter, too. Mm-hmm. And so they get in a bit of a scuffle. I think Loki pinches her cheeks really hard, makes her face really red and puffy. Yeah. It's fine. It's kind of cute. It's goofy.
It's cute,
except they're not really fighting.
Yeah, it's just such an obvious, sexist argument for two girls to have.
Yeah,
it was clearly written by a man. We're like, I don't know, what else would girls fight about?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, almost certainly.
The only thing that's of value is boobs, right?
But basically, Hestia appears to have basically zero friends, except Belle. But she does ask one of the goddesses to help make Belle a weapon, though we don't know what that's going to be quite yet. Mm-hmm. But it does take some convincing because she's immediately rejected, but especially because she's not well liked and can't afford it.
Yeah, and apparently this is somebody who used to be her best friend that she took advantage of. I guess, and sometime in the past. Maybe we'll get that whole story one day.
Probably.
Yeah.
But it's basically Lady Hephaestus, so god of the forge.
Right.
But Hestia decides that if she's going to convince her, she will do it all night. So for several hours, or what seems like several hours, she just literally bows in front of her. Wherever she is, she follows her, and she's just prostrate.
In my mind, she just crawled exactly like that
Probably.
from the party to her house.
Until eventually they're in her room.
Yeah.
She's like, what are you doing, Hestia? She's like, I'm begging!
Groveling.
She says groveling. This is called groveling, and I'm going to do it until you give me what I want. Because it means so much to her, the other goddess does eventually agree. Mm-hmm. But she does point out that you'll get your weapon, but it's going to cost you, and you're going to pay me back no matter how many eternities it takes. So, this is a big deal.
Yep.
And Belle's in town, and he's waiting for Hestia to come back, when he gets sent on an errand by one of the waitresses, one of Seer's friends, to give her wallet. She went to this big festival, and she forgot her wallet. And the good news is, this is a quest. And every gamer, anyone who's ever played a game, knows that you have to complete every quest.
You have to.
That's how you get the experience.
Yeah.
That's where all the real experience comes from.
It's the only fun, really.
So, the festival is a big monster-fighting gladiator-type festival. People get into this big coliseum, and they punch monsters, or stab them, or whatever you do with monsters.
This is where we meet Ganesha, right?
Yeah.
I love him.
He was good.
He's great.
He wears this little elephant mask.
Yeah.
And he dances, and
he just says his name. He's basically like DJ Khaled.
Yeah. Because he'll say something and be like, I am Ganesha. And everyone will be like, we know. And so, but as soon as we saw the type of festival it was, I was like, oh, I bet we know what Belle's going to end up doing. Mm-hmm. And I was slightly off, but still.
Yeah.
So we learn what the thing is, and then we also learn what the special knife that the god was making for Belle. And Hestia heads back to it to deliver the very fancy weapon for her one true friend. Mm-hmm. After Hestia gets her fancy knife, I don't know when it is, but she is told that it is alive. Mm-hmm. It is a living weapon, and it will grow stronger as Belle does. So it's the perfect thing for someone who's growing really quickly and sort of outclassing stuff that they might be able to afford.
Right.
Because it'll just grow with him.
Genius.
It's genius. It's very smart. And as she's learning that, we see one of the other gods, Freya, at the festival, and she appears interested in recruiting Belle for her own familia. Mm-hmm. Because while he might be a weakling and an obvious easy crier, she can see auras.
Yes.
And she saw his, and it was very promising.
Yes. She was a clear aura.
Yeah, it's completely clear, transparent, I think they said.
I think it's just because he's dumb.
There's nothing going on in his head.
Literally nothing there.
But either way, she's interested and she wants him.
And isn't Freya the one who's like the goddess of beauty, and she's the one that all the people were looking at? Okay.
She was the one in the scene with Hestia the first time.
Right. Okay.
They were both like, ugh.
Because when I watched that scene, I wasn't positive which goddess that was. But,
yeah, that was Freya. So Hestia arrives back into town, and she's going to try to find Belle so that she can give him his knife. But when she finds him, he's at the festival, and she insists that they go out on a date. Mm-hmm. But Belle is very clearly uncomfortable, and she does all those incredibly awkward cutesy moves when he tries to, while he just sort of tries to get along.
Right.
She's like, I just wanted this to end. And she's like holding hands, and she smears like ice cream on her face.
Yeah, well,
she's
she
like,
takes
will
a
you
bite.
get this off
it
of
was
me?
A crepe. Oh, they got crepes.
Okay.
And he refused to have a bite of hers. She was trying to make it all like romantic. Uh-huh. Yeah. And he wanted to eat a bite of hers because she was a goddess. And he's like, but you can have some of mine. She's like, okay. And sexually bites into his crepe and gets some white goo on her face, mm-hmm. which also makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's not into any of this.
None of it. He's not into it. He has a quest. She's stopping him from doing the quest.
That's right, because she knows he's looking for somebody.
Right.
And as this is happening, Freya releases one of the monsters from its cage, from the little underground area.
It looks like a yeti.
Yeah, it's like a big-ass yeti. They call it silverback.
Yeah, which makes me think gorilla, but it looked more like a yeti.
It's a yeti gorilla.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy gorilla.
Goretti.
It's a Goretti. It immediately goes after Hestia and Belle, and we hear Freya's voice tell it to capture Hestia. So, of course, their little date is interrupted by this giant monster, but they just can't seem to escape. So Belle is forced to turn around and try to confront it and protect his goddess with his shitty little blade.
Yeah.
And as soon as he stabs it, it breaks against the skin. And just before it can attack him when he's on the ground because he got knocked back, he throws something into its face to blind it, and then they just fucking book it. He grabs Hestia and they're just running. And he realizes that he's not strong enough to protect her from this thing, and they're going to keep being chased. So he has really only one option. Mm-hmm. So he finds a door, and he locks it behind him. Hestia's behind it, the door, it's behind him, so they're separated.
Right.
And he tells her that it's to buy her some time and save herself while he leads the monster away. Because no matter what happens, he's not going to lose any more family. And he runs off into the distance as the end credits play, and it's like, oh, he's a hero.
Yeah.
He does love her.
And he also believes everybody who talks to him is his family. That restaurant he had dinner at once is his home. And the woman with the pointy ears is his mom.
He said it felt like home.
I know.
And I think he meant his grandpa. We don't know what happened to his grandpa.
We don't.
But he's probably talking about his grandpa.
But at the same time, he's just like, home? Family? Are you my mother?
Yeah, he's that thing from Dr. Seuss.
Yes. Dr. Seuss?
Yeah. Are you my mother?
I was thinking of Doctor Who because there was an episode from that too. Anyway, that's funny.
All right, we're on episode 3. This is the last one of the day. It's actually accidentally very fitting because this is sort of the end of an arc.
Okay.
Because we have the intro episode, and these two sort of make a more complete story.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I mean, they do for us, but I didn't know if you knew what the fourth one was about, and it was starting a new.
I don't, but it seems like this one ended on a good note. I think.
Yes.
It's like comic books, right? Technically, they always continue, but you get those little 4 to 6 issues where it's just one little story.
Right.
And then the next thing follows up on it, but it's different.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
So we open to Belle remembering his sadness about being a little weak boy who couldn't get accepted into any familia. Mm-hmm. But Hestia found him while he was rejected from everywhere else, and she recruited him. And now she's his goddess. I also want to point out this doesn't make it doesn't track entirely, because apparently it was like a month ago. They say at one point that he's been 3 months. Okay. Because they say at one point he's been adventuring
was it a month and a half?
Yeah.
It was you're right.
Like, his first time in a dungeon was, 6 weeks ago.
Right. That's right.
So, it's fine, but it's really weird that he's like, my life has just completely changed. It's been 6 weeks.
I mean, he was taken in by a goddess and fell in love with someone in a dungeon, so...
Yeah.
He also seems like that type.
Yeah, he adjusts quickly.
He questions nothing and adjusts quickly.
And so now we cut back just a little to when he locked Hestia behind the door to protect her, and he ran away. Back at the Colosseum, we find out that the Ganesha Familia, I had trouble saying that for a second. The Ganesha Familia is running the event, and Ganesha intends to reach out to the other Familia to make sure that everyone stays safe. Mm-hmm. So he gathers up a sort of squad of people to go hunt the monsters that have escaped. And he's aware that whoever attacked the event is planning something, but he doesn't have time to figure that out. He needs to protect people.
Right.
Which is reasonable. And Bell is fighting the silverback Goretti again, and another one of his blades breaks because he uses little knives, and he apologizes internally in his brain, probably because, he's expecting to die right now.
Right.
And Hestia remembers back to when she first obtained the magic knife about 3 hours ago.
Right. It took her a pretty long time to give it to him, considering the danger they
were together being attacked, and she never bothered to give him this knife.
She let him run away from her.
But I think I understand.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Okay.
I want you to come back to it, because I have an answer for it, which I didn't realize until right now. But I have an answer.
Groovy.
But she still, realizes she has this magic knife, and she's going to deliver it to him. So, this is when they explain the knife is alive and it'll grow with him. But she's like, well, I gotta fucking give him this knife. So she runs off to find him so that she can give it to Belle. And he continues running from the Goretti, and he finds it increasingly difficult to escape, because it is faster than him, stronger than him, fucking him up real bad. But when he's finally cornered and he thinks he's really going to die this time, he looks a little happy. Mm-hmm. Maybe because, he thinks he bought Hestia the time that she needed to get away. So he's like, you know what? This is a good death.
Right. He's fine with self-sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. And he thinks about how he's not going to see the wall again, and she's also not going to save him this time. And then we get a little cut, a clever one, where we see a quick slash of the blade, just like in the first scene, where she saved him from a Minotaur, and they fake us out into thinking that the wall did save him, but no. She's in the other Familia squads killing other monsters.
Yeah, I thought that was clever, too.
Yeah, it was good. So we see it, and it's like, oh, she did save... No, she didn't. She's killing, like, a worm or something.
She's killing all the other monsters with the crowd around her.
Right, because the crowds gather when there's war. It's a cool thing, I guess. Yeah. That's what the festival was about.
I mean, I'd circle up to watch this awesome broad.
Yeah. So we're going back to Belle, and Hestia finds him. Like, she's higher than him somehow.
Yeah.
And she calls out to him, and he's upset. She's like, what are you doing here? The whole point!
You're not supposed to follow me.
Right. So, he's upset. But he jumps up to her to protect her again as she gets attacked, and he gets a little busted up as a result. But the good news for him, his spleen may be cracked, but Hestia is okay. And so she explains that nothing in the world can make her leave him either. And she wants to protect him as much as he does her. And besides, he promised not to leave her alone, so he's not allowed to die. Mm-hmm. And now, they're both going to die, so whoops. But they're not going to leave each other.
Exactly.
They're just going to be dead together.
The promise was maintained.
But it's too early to give up, she says. And you'd think she would give him the fucking magic knife she hasn't even mentioned yet. But instead she tells him that, because he grabs her and like carries her in her arms and runs away.
Yeah.
She's like, I know this is probably a bad time, but this is making me really happy.
I loved that.
It's actually funny.
It's really cute.
It's really dumb.
And also, I'm continuously mad in this episode that she literally has this magic sword, like, on her body, and she just hasn't given it to him yet.
Right. But he carries her off to a relatively safe place where they have a few minutes, and now she finally mentions the magic fucking knife that she's had on her body the entire time.
Right.
She's carrying it in a little sash. Like, he's felt it when he was holding her.
Right.
He just never asked, what is that hard metal object?
It's supposed to be really sharp, right? How does it not get...
I think it's in like a case or something.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, because it has like a sheath. Yeah.
It has a sheath, yeah.
But after Belle finally gets the knife, we're back to watching the wall kill monsters, and she gets the report about one final monster, and this is the Goretti that's chasing those two. Mm-hmm. So now the wall heads off to find it, and presumably she's going to save Belle. But, he's not going to need her saving, because now he has what's called the Hestia knife. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, super thing. She has to upgrade him really quick so that he can use it. And that is why she probably didn't mention it when they were being chased.
Oh, now, she could have done it. Have time.
Now, she could have done it when they were just at the festival hanging out.
Right.
But it
she didn't
wasn't
know
really...
it was that dire.
Right.
She probably had a whole romantic thing planned.
Probably.
Yeah, you're
so by the time they're being chased, she doesn't have time to be like, oh, hey, this knife, and also, you can't use it yet, but I have it. So it's a minor... She still probably should have mentioned it. Like, hey, maybe we should get to a safe place. I can give you this magic knife. Instead, he was like, well, I guess I gotta die.
Yeah, instead she's like, I guess you have to carry me forever.
Right. So it could have been handled better, but it makes some sense that she didn't mention it.
Good point.
Right, just try to do it.
Yes.
But now he has it, and apparently his skill level has upgraded to over 600, which is
arbitrary to us.
Yeah,
But
it means nothing.
But also, last time we heard it was like 100 or something.
Right, it was really shit.
That's a clear jump.
She assures him that she's now given him the key to victory, and so Bell rushes out with his new knife to confidently confront the big monster boy. Mm-hmm. And the good news is, his knife doesn't break just like all the others when he stabs it. So that's great. And Hestia explains to him that it's alive and it'll grow stronger as he does. And all he needs to do is believe in the knife, in his goddess, and believe in himself. And by God, he's actually doing it. Mm-hmm. He's believing and he's actually fighting this thing.
The thing he's best at.
He does some really cool maneuvers because he's a little quickie boy.
Yeah.
Like that's his
agility's gone up from running screaming, which is like, oh, that's a line that we skipped right over.
That's right.
I loved that line.
Yeah, in the first scene where he was, or in the first episode where he was leveling up, they mentioned his agility has increased.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, my agility's like blah. And she goes, yeah, that happens sometimes when you run away screaming.
That's actually good. But yeah, if this was a video game, and it sort of operates like one, he is the sort of rogue. He carries a knife rather than like a sword, and he's very fast. So he sort of darts around on screen rather than like, because the wall, she's literally a wall.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm big and I'm strong, and you come with me and I cut your head off.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm gonna sneak up on you and stab you in the neck.
Woman. Yeah. A really pretty Amazon woman.
Oh yeah.
Like, very feminine features. I would be a rogue probably, because I prefer knives.
Mm-hmm. I always play rogue. Yeah. Not always, but I often play rogue. So he does some cool maneuvers, and he actually manages to stab this thing in the chest. And it falls to the ground, and it explodes, as monsters are wont to do when they are killed. And even he's a little bit surprised by his victory. Like, it dies, and he's just like, whoa. Like, I did it.
Also, that solved a problem that I immediately thought of in my head. I'm like, oh, that sword, that knife is right in the front of that monster, and it fell on it. I'm like, who's gonna flip that thing over to get that sword back? And then it disappeared. I'm like, oh, right.
I had that thought, too.
Oh, did you?
I thought it might get back up, and now he's knifeless.
Right.
But it died. And an entire crowd has gathered for him, too, and they cheer because they've witnessed this very, it's a big deal. It was the strongest, probably, monster that got out.
Right, and that is the smallest boy they've ever seen.
Did someone say that?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just the way they react, like, what the hell?
Yeah. And unbeknownst to him, the wall was also watching, so that has to be good for him, right? Mm-hmm. So now Hestia has passed out from all the strain of the situation, and from afar we watch the goddess who released these monsters hauntingly imply that they're going to play again real soon. Mm. And then we cut back to Aina from the first episode, and she's making an incident report, and mentions that they haven't yet figured out who is responsible for the monsters getting loose, and more importantly, they don't know why.
You're right.
But
and so I guess Freya is going to be the bad guy for at least the foreseeable future.
Yeah, she's...
And they make sure that we know that because she's dressed like a Sith Lord.
Absolutely, she's got a little black hood on.
Right, like covering the majority of her face.
And she's just like, I guess I'll see you later.
Yeah, like in situations where she doesn't need to cover herself up, the people know she...
No one knows she's there.
Well, no, I mean, like, when she's, like, talking to people in the face-to-face, and they're, like, saying, like, oh, hey, Freya. And she's like, mystery.
But yeah, but in this scene, like, she's, like, on a tower way out of town. No one knows she's there, and she's like, I'm covering my identity.
This is my bad girl cloak.
But Belle goes to the tavern so that they can get some rest. Instead of going home, he takes Hestia to the tavern with Seer.
Yeah.
Who feels responsible for leaving her wallet and making him have to be the one to deliver it, and he wouldn't have been in danger had he not been at the festival.
Right.
Had he not been there. And so she just feels a little guilty. But she also tells him that everyone is talking about him, and even she saw some of the battle. She gets real close to him and says, and I liked what I saw.
Yeah. These bitches be on him.
Yeah, she was, I think he slipped up the stairs after this conversation. But Belle still can't believe a girl might have the likes for him because he's just one of those guys. Yeah. He literally says to himself, oh, she's probably just messing with me.
Why are girls so mean?
Yeah. So Hestia finally wakes up, and he notices the signature on the weapon is that same goddess who makes that legendary equipment.
Right.
And so he's completely overwhelmed by the gesture, and he cries real, real hard because Hestia is just so good to him.
Might as well say, like, made in Valeria.
Yeah, basically. He's just like, you got it from the god, oh my god!
His name brand?
And so there's another little scene, but it doesn't really matter because this is the end of the episode, and we're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the best and the worst.
I loved this.
Yeah?
Yeah. The worst is obviously the bonkers female anatomy.
Absolutely.
But that will be true of the majority of animes.
Yeah.
So I already sweep that into the back of my mind.
Live with it. Yeah.
Right. And it's not as bad as I've seen. It's not as bad as it could be.
Right.
The best is the storyline is interesting enough and quick-paced and funny which is so different from the majority of things that we watch.
I know.
Yeah.
It's still about gods. Gods are real. Gods have powers.
Yeah, and I actually, even characters that I didn't think I was going to like Hestia, I ended up liking a lot. So I like the character development.
Excellent.
I like a lot of it. What about you?
My worst is Belle's being so stupid.
Yeah, that is difficult.
It's frustrating.
No, yeah, it's not, it's endearing to a degree and then becomes frustrating.
Right.
Right.
So it's cute. But also I'm like, God damn it, Belle.
Also, does he not seem like a 12-year-old? Do we know how?
He seems really young.
He seems really young.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and like the women all seem pretty grown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems like a child. Hestia is the only one who seems like...
She's childlike, but she's a fully developed woman.
Right, she's thousands of years
Unless
old.
she paid for those boobs at the age of 10. The only one that seems like on his, like, in his...
rough bracket.
Right, would be Seer.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they
and
seem like they could both be in middle school together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But even Seer seems like a little older than him.
He does.
Like, she's
Definitely
a little
more
more
mature and intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
anyway.
that's
Really, it's not that bad of a worst part. Like,
No.
he's fine. He's just, sometimes I'm like, oh my god, you're so stupid.
right.
The best for me has got to be... I love characters who operate on sheer willpower.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Spider-Man's the best.
Yeah.
And Batman's pretty cool too. So just like the scene especially where he was in the dungeon and he's like, I'm just gonna fucking kill everything until I'm strong enough.
Yeah.
And the end of the first episode where he just comes back to town and he's like, I wanna be strong.
Right, and just people who just like want to do good.
Yeah.
Just want to do good and be good, and there's a nobleness to them.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with that characteristic.
I like that.
Alright, so that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Let's talk about some things that are like this that people should watch alongside this, because we liked it.
We did like this. I definitely recommend watching it, and I'm kind of curious to watch more episodes. If I felt like I had any more free time, I would already be doing that. But yeah, we'll see. I actually didn't really think about this.
I can go.
Yeah,
Give me some seconds.
Okay.
There is another anime that is not about gods and stuff, but it is about sort of RPG approach to killing monsters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show called Legend of the Shield Hero.
Okay.
And I liked it.
All right. I've
I liked
never
it really
heard of
weird.
that.
It has a rough start that a lot of people really hated it for.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the first episode, it's this guy. He's like a modern Japanese kid. He ends up in a fictional fantasy world, but seems real. But it might be real. And he's supposedly one of the heroes. He's got a shield.
Uh-huh.
So he picks up some people to help him, but no one wants to for whatever reason. They do explain it. But he has one friend. She frames him for rape.
Oh, awesome.
Her specifically.
Oh, goodness
And
gracious.
she's the princess.
Oh, no.
And they're in a matriarchal society. So
Sweet.
So he's like super, everyone's like, oh, that guy's the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't do it.
Yeah.
But then he's basically on his own for
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people had trouble because it's like, the premise is basically a false rape allegation, which is reasonable to be like annoyed by, I guess. But also it's like, it's not really the point.
Yeah.
Like it happens.
I'd have to watch it to know how I felt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and at least he doesn't be like, no, have you seen her? I would never. Which is, let's say that.
Somebody made that point recently. We're like, if the only argument you have against the concept of you raping someone is that she's not your type, you definitely are a rapist.
Yeah, it's not a question. But I could be wrong, but I forgave it for that relatively weird choice for the first storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not the point. If they talked about every episode, that'd be different. But
gotcha.
They can't kill him because he's the shield hero, so it's like, we're just gonna exile you, fuck off. And it's about him sort of building himself up from nothing. It's a fun little show.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Sounds good. I don't have anything that reminds me necessarily exactly of this, but I can say as someone who's not seen a lot of anime and pretty much typically only really likes Miyazaki.
Yeah.
I really, 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 really liked Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I'm not sure I've seen it. I feel like I might have mentioned it on this show before as another watch this, not that.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
I think what we might have mentioned maybe before, if it wasn't edited out of one of our episodes, is that it's one of the best theme songs ever.
Also that.
I fucking love the theme song.
One thing about this show is neither the theme or the ending are memorable.
No, not at all.
And that's uncommon in anime, because usually they really try to pop you with them.
Yeah.
Shield Hero, excellent intro.
You know what's good though is like the interstitial music, like the music throughout the episode actually was really good, notably good. Mm-hmm. Like where occasionally I'd be like, oh, I kind of dig this like action music that they're playing. So watch Cowboy Bebop.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we're going to do next week.
Okay.
I'm feeling the animation kick.
All right.
So
all right.
let's do this.
What are we doing? We are doing Joseph, King of Dreams.
We're going to watch The King of Dreams.
My brother's name is Joseph. Is this
Perfect.
about him?
It could be.
Oh, okay.
Is your brother a early
I wouldn't
BC?
call him a dreamer.
Can he interpret dreams? Is he Israeli?
He could be a seer of some sorts. He's pretty insightful.
Okay. Well, it is sort of the counterpiece, the counterpart to Prince of Egypt.
Oh, okay.
It's not a sequel, but it's like I think it's the same company, same like mostly,
and all that stuff. Okay.
Mostly the same. So it's sort of a counterpart to Prince of Egypt, which I've also never seen. But
You've
this
never
one's,
seen it? I saw it, and I wasn't even Christian at the
I'm gonna
time.
have to watch it one day.
Yeah, that'll
it's gonna be for this show one day.
Please.
But while it's on Netflix, so we can watch it easily, and after I selected it, and it was too late to go back, obviously, I found out it's a musical.
Woohoo!
So too late. I chose it. I gotta live with it.
I love that you didn't even tell me all that. You could have easily not even done this and never told me, and I would have never known that I missed out on a musical.
I already picked it when I found out. I looked it up and I was like,
no changing it now. Damn it. You can't
I have several queues or like lists on different websites, streaming and stuff, where I have stuff that fits our show.
Yes.
And so I just picked this one because I was like, it's animated, and I just watched anime. Let's do it.
Let us pray to the goddesses that it is a good musical.
Let's hope so.
At least one memorable song would be really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm hoping it's more like a Disney movie musical where there's songs, but it's not a musical.
Fun songs. It's not just like they're singing their feelings.
Right.
Or what they're thinking.
Those are the musicals I really hate.
I hate musicals where it is almost no dialogue and they're singing conversations. I hate that.
Yeah. All right. And remember, if you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast app or service you are using, and tell your friends or anyone else you might come across any way that you can.
Yeah.
Tell your customers. If you own a business or work at a business, tell your customers. Just say, hey, you see Noah Snark? It's great.
Sacrifice your customer base.
Exactly. We'll get you a new one. They'll hear the show, and they'll say, oh,
yeah.
He was doing me a solid.
Yeah.
They were doing me a solid. They really helped me.
Hey, fucking give us money. We'll advertise for you.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
But we need the attention is what I'm saying. We need your affection. We need your love.
Yeah.
I'm going to die without it. And links to everything are in the description of this episode. That's primarily a website where you can send us a comment or a question so that we can have a mailbag one day. As well as social media links for the two of us and whatever else we deem worthy.
It's there.
As always, thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
We appreciate your fucking faces.
We like you a whole lot.
Bye.